Huh? Maybe
All right.
Farrell.
Thank everybody. Somebody there needs to mute their microphone. See Kathy or Cindy. We're hearing a little bit of a conversation in the background. Thank you for that. All right, so we are in Lean Coffee Table, and I'm gonna ask you to just jump in and start adding topics. You should it's a big lozenge-shaped field in front of you. So go ahead, type in a topic, hit enter, and you'll see them show up. And I'll put there so you can see what it looks like. Oh, wait, I didn't know we were going to have to do it. All right, let's get us started. Hey, Addie, I saw your comments. If you can reach your chat box, I've just put a link in there so you can do it. Let me know if you got any problems. So if there's any questions about what you're supposed to be doing now, again, under the it says like add topics. This is where you should be typing in what you think you would like to talk about. This is to you to help us create our conversation today. All right, now, thank you for that. If you're saying, I'm not sure what to put here, maybe it's about what's the biggest challenge you've seen working with volunteers, whether or not it's even development to leaders, something. Or if you've got a great success story that you'd like to share, you can throw that in as well. So give this like about another minute or two, and then we'll get started on our put our things together, make our and then get started on the conversation. Hey, Addie, is my technology giving you issues? Doesn't look like you've made it into the lean coffee yet. You can just unmute. Let me know something I can do to help here.
I don't know. I hit that and I get just the circle and I don't see anything happening.
Huh. That's nice.
Then I tried to make this screen smaller and totally lost the Zoom. I could hear everybody, but I couldn't see the. So what do I need to do now?
Try that. I'm going to put it in the chat an alternate route.
Okay.
You'd have to cut paste that. It's just basically coffeepdchr.org.
Yeah. Copy and paste it.
Yeah. So open up a browser window tab.
Oh, I see. Okay.
All right. And you like tell me if you get something. You'll know you're there because like the color scheme in orange, which is
okay.
Cool fall, I suppose.
So I got to open a window. You said open the window in the chat?
No, in your browser.
In my browser, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me get to that.
Trust me, this is the hardest part of the day right here of our session.
Okay. Now, is it the development roundtable? Or I see all of these things. Think like a volunteer.
Oh, you see all those. That's weird.
PDCHR outreach and connecting parliamentary.
Huh.
Okay.
You shouldn't be able to see all those. It's okay. It's the one that says volunteer leadership development.
Let's see. Think like a volunteer on site? No.
All right, I'm going to send you one more.
Okay.
It's a different link to show you the one I'm actually sent that one's acting poorly. And then we'll get us started here.
Let's see this one.
So I think copy that whole link, drop it in that browser tab. You should be good to go. But what I'm going to do is, because we've already got some comments on here already, I think we'll get started. As soon as you can join us, that's fantastic. And if we still struggle, the worst case is you can in because we'll be doing missions and stuff again here.
Okay.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Those who are on the app right now, usually that's you to go ahead and vote. So that's what we'll. Actually, let me take a look at this and see if there's anything we need to merge together. Should we have surveys for your leadership? How to give feedback, keep them engaged, how to recruit, how to be a good leader. Then what I'm doing there. So those all sound to me as being questions. So I don't think we need to merge any of them together. What I'll do here is I'm going to we're going to go ahead and start our voting.
No, I got to vote.
So yeah, so each one of these, for those who are inside the application, at the bottom you should see you see all the questions. There's like 7 of them there right now. You see a little check on the bottom that says vote. So you can click at as many times as you want for each one. So I don't know if you noticed, but you couldn't see while I was voting. So for example, here's a sample topic from Mark. Makes sense to you. You just click on the vote in the bottom left corner, and it'll lay your votes. You click it again, it'll be 2 votes on it, so on and so forth. Or you can remove votes. It'll show. So I see Carly and Cindy, you've got it. You've cast your votes, and I don't know what you've cast yesterday, but I just know that you have. I'm not voting in this. So Elena, you've got a couple more votes available too. I'd like to place those, somewhere. And Annie, it's like you're just going to have to listen to.
That's fine.
So all the votes are in. We're going to go ahead and get this rolling. So, oh, y'all mine. So what was, since sounds interesting to you guys, and I didn't vote, I'm going to take it right over to just discussing this. Like I said, we'll do it for 5 minutes. And then at the end of 5 minutes, you'll hear their toe off, and then we'll decide if we want to continue again for their 2 or 3 minutes. So we can repeat that as much as we can stand it, or move on to the next one. So I'm going to get us going. So you'll see the timer counting down. So I had suggested, how do we identify high potential leaders? And what I was thinking there is that we have a big group of volunteers that we already have engaged with us. So thinking about advancing them to either positions of leadership among that group of volunteers, or perhaps into some type of organizational leadership, because membership decisions are typically all volunteer. So that's my question is, how do we find the ones that have that greatest potential for moving leadership roles? So any questions? And this is the opportunity to, we won't take any notes on this, but go and unmute yourself. You've got, a question you want to, ask, amplifying your thing, or if you've got some thoughts, just free flowing conversation. So the floor is open, unmute and speak.
I have a question. This is Addie. If a person is a good servant, always available to do the work of the whatever the committee or organization is, but they refuse to be a leader, how do you kind of urge them? Because that would be the type of person who would be a good leader, because they're faithful to doing, the work already.
So just make sure I understand. So you've got a good worker bee volunteer that you'd like to see leadership position, but pretty explicitly or implicitly said, I want to move to a leadership position. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Well, I'd love to hear other folks' thoughts on it. And of course, I have tons of thoughts on it, but I have tons of thoughts. Everything. So, or Cindy or Elena, thoughts on this?
I think some people just really don't want to be in a leadership role. So if you can explain what it means to be a leader in your organization, I think that probably is the most helpful thing to do. And if you can make that not feel intimidating, that's probably super wonderful.
Cool. Other thoughts? Well, I'll throw in a couple thoughts on that. Just hover around this area for a while. So a couple things, and I think it was Cindy who offered that, this comment, if I remember correct. So yeah, there, kind of expanding on that a little bit. I think there's a couple of things to be cognizant of. Is one is evaluate yourself. Is there a risk if there's definite no there? How many times do you ask before you get the hey, not listening to me? This is not what I want to go and go somewhere else where I can do what I want to do and not get badgered, if you will. But before that, I think some things to consider is, do you have clarity in not only what does it entail, so there's the responsibilities, authority, expectations, stuff like that associated with the role, but even more significantly is, can you state why it's able to both that volunteer potentially, as well as to the organization? So, you've demonstrated a great skill at organizing, these particular items or whatever. That's, part of the heart goal of what we do is getting these things out. We'd love for you to, teach others how to do this and maybe figure out a way for us, this, packing of items or tagging of items is more effectively, more efficiently. Not only do we get more stuff out the door, if you will, but our beneficiaries, the people that we serve, this is what they get. They have a better experience at whatever our organization is trying to deliver. And for you, I think, it might be an opportunity to, keep doing what you love and sharing that love with others. But all that being said, if the answer is no, then the answer is no. Maybe a different ask. You say, hey, who would you suggest that we go to for this? Who you could work for, or or something like that. All right, so the time's up. I'm not sure why the time didn't go off. But you should be on your screen a thumbs up to keep talking, no preference, don't really care, or thumbs down to end the topic. So go ahead and place votes here. I will always vote, personally, I'll vote no preference because you guys are to manage this.
I'll say that answers my question pretty well, but if others want to continue, I'm fine with that.
Okay, no preference. I just voted just Addie's no preference.
Okay, thank you.
Tell you what, Addie's, that's what we'll do is you tell me how you want to vote if we'll do that, and I'll vote for you. Okay, well, I see like 3 votes. And that looks, someone already bailed out us. All our votes are, so we're done. No preference to end the topic. So we're just going to wrap this one up. And go ahead and talk about what's next on the list. So pardon me 1 second, just a little technical blip here. So our next topic is how to give feedback to volunteer leaders. Sure, everything else got 2 votes. So, oops. Bear with me for 1 second. I am trying to. There we go. Give me a nice thing in here. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start the discussion. And Cindy's question to give feedback to volunteer leaders. So Cindy, could you get us started and maybe tell us a little bit about why question is to you, or anything else you want to share about it?
Well, in particular, I have one volunteer leader that has been with the organization a really long time in a leadership role. And I don't know whether she's just tired or what. She needs to do things a little more actively. And and it's a role that's very difficult to recruit into. So those are kind of the difficulties that I'm having. How do I give feedback in order to change behavior without having her leave the organization?
Yeah, like that question, broadly applicable across the entire working spectrum.
Yes, I'm sure that's true.
Right. So yeah, how do you give constructive feedback when performance could be better, or at least different, and you don't want to risk losing them? Is that a fair restatement? Yes. All right, cool. So Addie, thoughts on that?
I'm trying to perfect this in my own life, but you kind of list all of the good qualities that the person has and how they've been effective in whatever they do in the organization, and then kind of put out that it would be helpful or you know, that kind of wording, if you could do a little more of whatever, you know, the task is, could you be more timely or whatever the situation is?
Cool. Carla, thoughts? Yeah, struggle with smaller group. It's so hard to hide. Oh, chase Carla away. Maybe she'll come back. All right. So I'll just add a couple thoughts as well. So out in the real business world, there's all these mechanisms that they talk about, or that we talk about, all the traditional ones out of the management books, the fact sandwich, which you're really doing really good. Here's one thing that I'd like you to address, and by the way, here's something else that's doing really good. So that's pretty standard for me. I kind of go from there's like a psychological judo move, which is asking for help. You asking that volunteer for help. I'm a big fan of, could you help me understand why? Could you help me understand how? Or could you teach me or stuff like that? So I, if you could identify, the particular performance issue or challenge, and say that it's not like I want you to do that, but I think kind of going back to our first conversation, first question, it's like organization really values this particular aspect for what its intention is. We would like to make sure that we're being more timely or more accurate or stuff like that. Can you help me understand where you see that there's opportunity for improvement or changes or stuff like that, or if there's any in your way of doing this? I'm back in 2017. We used to be able to do this. Understand so much has changed really. But what are your thoughts about us expanding this or change or stuff like that? Yeah, Cindy, could you, are you willing to be a little more specific about the issue? Because we've got the opportunity to do, maybe a little greater intensity here.
Yeah, it's our finance officer, and it's really hard to get a hold of her, and she's not very thorough in what she does. We've asked her several times to do this one, what feels like a small task, but maybe it's not. And she's also not quite ready to come into the 2020 from a technology perspective. And yet I think she's been the finance officer for like 10 years. So it's been a long time, and finding a new one is very difficult.
Sure.
And yet my feeling is having a finance officer as a volunteer role for 10 years, that's too long.
that was kind of my gut check. That's risky. Hey, so our first 5 minutes is over here. So this is like one of those embarrassing moments where you really hide. Addie, you want to keep going on this, or move along, or don't care? And Cindy, same thing for you. A little vote. But I'm just going to tell Addie what your vote is anyways, to be.
Well, I'd like to continue on, so you can put that down for us.
Okay.
I think so.
Sure. If there's more to say on it, that'd be great.
All right, cool. Well, I'll go ahead and down for a couple minutes here, and when the timer runs out, we'll just keep going, on or not. So yeah, so some more reaction, like, yeah, I don't know how anybody does any role, for years straight. It's, I don't know. The opportunity to, is the opportunity there to make it a fresh, an exciting thing as time goes by. Of course, that's rear view mirror questioning now. So I guess one thing, if I was chatting or coaching with someone about this, I would probably ask, what is the risk entailed with, identifying replacement, or, worse yet, awkwardly scaring this person off.
One of the issues that I'm having in my committee with a person who's been in the position a long time is they don't want to do anything different. And so it's kind of the same thing. I agree with you that when a person has been there too long, it's difficult for them to see new things because they've done it for so long and it's worked that way. And none of us like to change. So motivating people to change by, I don't know, games or whatever you can use to get them to see that doing something different. I know one time on my job, our boss did a thing where it was a team building exercise where we had to build a tent with one person blindfolded, and there were two teams. And so it was like learning how to do something different without really saying, learn how to do something different. And then the conversation can go into how do we do things different, and, what happens if you're doing something for a long time, and then, how do you refresh yourself, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. How do you change your, because it's hard to change the environment.
Right.
So Cindy, what are the, what's the risk to the organization if a volunteer keeps going down this less than desirable path?
Well, I personally think the risk of having a finance officer for 10 years in a volunteer position is pretty risky by itself. I don't know that there's a huge risk. People got kind of used to writing checks and not doing anything online with their funding, but we are changing systems at the national level, and so I think that is going to require some more changes, which I think that's when risk is going to come up, and that's supposed to happen in the first half of this year. So that'll be kind of maybe a game changer for everybody.
Sure. So it does offer for perhaps leverage in that kind of conversation, because that moves it from a, I feel like we're doing better to here's a law, regulation, policy, procedure, basically a external requirement has changed.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is then that's not particularly subject to interpretation. So the conversation is we expect by by the end of June, I'm just going to go ahead and send this. We expect that by the end of June that we will have to move to finance system that is completely online. It has to be editable. I'm implying that we can't keep going with your paper balance or Excel spreadsheet or stuff like that. So so there's a whole bunch of things.
That may solve a lot of the problems in the discussion.
Yeah. So I would just take it from there. Say, hey, we love the work you been doing for us. These 10 years, that's pretty amazing. Always felt that we had a really good insight of where we stood financially, in terms of our revenue and obligations and stuff like that. However, the ship, wherever that might be in Richmond, has said that we, just like every other chapter branch or whoever, has to change over to this system. So we want to make sure that works well, of course, for our branch or our chapter, and that's that we're respectful of your role in this. So the kinds of things that the headquarters is already told us to expect. We online. We have to be auditable. We have to have these reporting requirements. From Cindy's point of view, I'm not sure how we can, meet that with our procedures. Any thoughts on how we can get there? So now you're putting it as a challenge, not to how she's doing, business for you, so much as it, we're all in this together. We've this new challenge in front of us, and you're really giving her the opportunity, to vote with her feet or not.
Right.
If you get the steady, no, this is all I know, all I, want to do, say, great, I'll need your help because, frankly, we'll have to transition to, not only transition to a new system, but we'll also have to find somebody who's comfortable in that environment. Are you willing to help, bring a person on board, train them, share what you've learned? And then what I would suggest is if you value her, as a member of the organization, as well as a volunteer, and think about how you're going to celebrate 10 years of service and what could you offer to her if you're willing, in terms of here's another opportunity to succeed or to well. So I mean, on the other hand, if she sucks, it's like, hey, this is what's happening.
Great. I think that those are all great ideas, and thank you for helping me think through this.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what these roundtables are about. It's a shame that more people weren't able to join and stick with us, but it is, because these are these kind of extemporaneous conversations. The merrier for that. It's like, I tried, just said, but it sucked, and here's why. And but this is what we did, said that was marvelously successful. So other thoughts or questions along this side?
I'm good. Those were good ideas. I appreciate
Hey,
it.
Shahar, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes.
All right. So we're holding our conversation or managing it. It doesn't matter too much in an application. And I'm going to put that link in your chat box.
Okay.
And so if you can do this there, all I'll do is ask you your name, stuff like that. And really quickly, what we're doing is the folks who are already on basically creating an agenda of things we're talking about, and we jointly talk about them, and then we decide when we go on to the next subject. So we missed a couple, but you can get the recording.
Okay.
And I'm not muting anybody. I'll just ask everybody to senator and self-mute because it's noon, so we'll hear what you're ordering at Chick-fil-A or whatever. So Addie or Cindy, anything else you want to add to this one about using that one particular volunteer one?
No, we can move on.
Right.
For my opinion.
Me
Cindy, what do
too.
you think?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think let's move on.
Moving along. Move that one out. So our next one in this, this again from the Department of Questions that everybody always asks. How do you keep your volunteer leader engaged? So it's in the middle of your screen, Shahar, when you can get there, you'll see what I'm talking about. But how do you keep your volunteer leaders engaged? We've got 5-minute clock for the first round. Cindy, your question, did you want to shed a light on that?
I think this might be about myself. So it's, I've been volunteering for an organization for quite some time in a number of different areas. And I know that to be an effective volunteer, I have to be engaged and excited. And so keeping myself in that space has become a little bit more difficult lately. Maybe all the Zooms, who knows? But anyway, that's where the question is.
Got it. Yeah, so the topic of engagement, not only volunteers, but membership associations, the members themselves, is is always a prevalent one. And the reason, it's important, just to kind of give some background, what I've been thinking about here, it is, if you volunteer, be it yourself or somebody else, as the level of engagement wanes, that reduces the likelihood that a person will travel a little bit further and more of a more and more leadership role for the organization itself. You've got a big community of people who are generally interested in what you're talking about. Then you have those who have joined the organization, and there's those who show up, and then there's who volunteer to do things, and there are those who volunteer to lead, ultimately. So so what you're saying about is, does the level of your observation stuff that level your engagement you waning. First off, I'm glad you didn't say you were sorry, because there's nothing to be sorry about. That happens to all, that maybe what's happened to your 10-year financial officer volunteer. Time is a long time. So, there's any number of, books out there about, how to engage others and how to engage yourself and stuff like that. And, some of the things are, it's like, what are the new challenges? What are the new changes? So there's this kind of inventory. What's to coach in the, business or job transition world? You used a Venn diagram as what are you going to do? What can you do? And what will you be? Used to be which will you get paid to, but really are you be rewarded for doing? Because it's not necessarily always about pay. So what can you do? What do you want to do? And what would you be rewarded for? It's a great intersection to understand about yourself. Pardon me, I got to. Okay. Sent the link to Addie and not to Shar. I just sent you the direct link yet again, or this time I actually see you. Sorry about that. So there's that question of, if you categorize, or if you kind of like take a self-inventory of what you can do, what you can do, and what you get rewarded to do within the organization, maybe it'll reveal that whatever role you're in right now is really not necessarily the perfect one for you. Maybe it's time to look for a different role, be it reached, or just somewhere, something you haven't done, just for the challenges. That's how you keep yours fresh. That's how you keep your organization fresh, by bringing, new ideas, shedding new lights into new corners and stuff like that. The other thing that I've seen, in the wide world of engagement is, it's always an interesting question. How do you define what engagement, really means? Is it simply showing up? Is it showing up volunteer to do something? So that's important for both you as an individual and for your organization to know. For a lot of people, we say, well, only 10% of our audience shows up, so only 10% engaged. That may or may not be accurate. They, the other members, the folks who don't necessarily show up, may be satisfied, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So, are we satisfied with what we're doing, even if it doesn't meet that traditional level of engagement? Now, obviously, as a leader in an organization, that's where PDCHR, where we kind of focus efforts. We're being, leadership, presence, activity, positive influences, and all that stuff is incredibly important. So with that lit in my mind, and I already blew off the timer and added a couple minutes here. I'm kind of interested to see your Addie or Ursh, in what your action is to that. Her thoughts on my soapbox.
I would say, I don't know what to say, because I've had some of the similar problem. As a matter of fact, a month ago, I was ready to just leave the whole thing because I was so frustrated with it. But I do think that being online rather than in person has an effect on how we do things, because I guess the personal interaction adds engagement maybe. Again, I'm an older person, so maybe with younger people, it doesn't have that effect because they've kind of grown up with it. But for me, it's like we consistently talk to sometimes, names on a screen instead of the interaction of eye contact and things like that with people. And I think sometimes that might keep us from being engaged. Not much we can do about that, again, because of the COVID virus thing and people's wanting to be involved. I think what you said is true about there are some people who faithfully keep in touch with me through the technology, but they don't show up for the meetings. So it is true that there are people on the sideline, but I still like to have numbers, at the meetings and things like that. But of course, we can't control that all the time.
Cindy or Shahar? Well, actually, I should note, that time is up a couple of times. I'm extending this. But do we want to continue? And, Cindy, you get to vote online. Addie and Shahar, so you're not in here yet. Stuff you want to keep going on this, don't care, or, move on to our remaining topics. Deafening silence. Hey, what do you think?
What's the one? No preference?
All right, you're in there. One. Shahar, you haven't made it in yet, but that's okay. What do you think? Ready to move along this topic, or off topic, or chat about something else, or stick with this one? I'm sorry.
If she's talking, she has to unmute.
Yeah, that's true. So Shahar, you are muted. You're trying to say something. All right, then. Based on the votes we got, we're going to just move along, and I'll preach on something else. So our next question was about recruiting volunteer leaders, and again, Cindy threw the question in the box of votes. So you want to offer a little background on this one, how to recruit volunteer leaders?
Yeah, boy, I'm going overboard here, huh? Yes,
Get your money's worth.
yeah. We actually, in just a couple of hours, have our succession planning meeting for our group. And the same leaders have been rolling around through all of the various leadership roles. And I think perhaps like they may be getting a little tired. And so
They are. I don't even know your organization, but I know they are.
Yeah, I know they are too, actually. Anyway, so we have to figure out how to recruit some new volunteers. And what we've done in the past is try to make, streamline the jobs easier, create committees, have co-leads. So, we've done a lot of the things that you can do to make it less daunting. We have the group that we have right now is working super well together, and they're very supportive of one another. And it's, it's like the group that you really want leading your organization. But as I said, they're getting tired. So.
Yeah. So, Addie, thought about what Cindy was just sharing?
Yes, we have a similar problem in the group that I'm in. And I made a statement to them a while back that made everybody angry, but sometimes when we've done everything as a group and get to that place, like you say, where everybody gets along and there's no conflict or disagreement, we've gotten to a place of complacency. And what really happens is, because we've always done it together for so long and it's worked out, we don't really try to recruit other people. And I'm having a hard time trying to get my group to see that, because when things happen, well, we always say, we can't do this because nobody else is going to do it. But the truth is, we're not really looking to make it so that somebody else can. For example, planning things a little bit earlier on to get volunteers, learning to work it a little bit differently than what we've done before. Even if that worked and this new way might not work as well, it still needs to be tried so that we can move in a different direction. So again, we just have to reach out and really make an effort to see that other people can do things, but they're going to do them differently, and we have to be able to accept that.
I guess it makes such sense, right? Because we're always asking, in this question, about succession planning, and how's that tied to the programs or services that we're delivering to our constituency? Is what's the risk of change? What's the risk of not changing? And Addie, I don't know if you could hear, but I was not hit violently. I don't know if you heard the rocks rolling around. With that whole aspect of complacency, if you remember, if you were ever subjected to high school or college thermodynamics, the third law spoke to envy, which says, if you don't do anything else, we're just going to run out of energy. It'll just dissipate. So it's all been that way. It's never true. It's always looked like this, but it's actually been degrading slowly. Whether or not we've noticed it, just this kind of wasted energy going through the motions, as well as the missed opportunities. If we are heads down, and this is how we always do the spreadsheet, and this is exactly how we always progress, and this is exactly how we do our marketing and stuff like that. At some point, we move from perpetuating something good to perpetuating something okay, to stepping into this death spiral. To Cindy, I'm thinking is well, first off, we got the little 5-minute timer here. Shall we cue?
Yes, continue. When you finish your statement.
Yeah.
All right. Continue then. All right. So, so to the succession planning, one of the things that I've observed, and I look at tons and tons a lot, anyways, of membership associations, and if I want to, rapidly, there's like about 2 questions. I can ask the health of a volunteer or membership association with basically 2 questions. And the first one is, do you know now who your president-elect is? And it's not really yes or no question. There's a bunch of answers to it. The very best answer is no, we don't know, because it's a highly competitive role.
Wow, I'd love to hear that one.
Great problem.
Me
to
too.
have. Not many people have that problem.
I have never heard that problem.
Right. Yeah, very, very unfamiliar, but it's it's a national problem. A somewhat more common answer is, yeah, we actually do, because usually our treasurer becomes our president-elect becomes our president, or something like that. So we know that Bill, in 4 years, if he doesn't keel over dead, will probably be our president. the worst is I have no clue who the president-elect is. Well, actually, the worst one is I have no clue who our president is. But the slightly better is I don't even know who the president-elect is, who's coming up next, next after next. And succession planning is, a big part of that. And it is really the end of the whole volunteer end, but it is the penultimate, if you will, position for the whole volunteer life cycle. I mean, you think about the life cycle from, the first assignments, and then the question is, do you offer them other opportunities? We've already perhaps identified them as kind of high potential, to taking on, a modest leadership. It's like, oh, well, you're this committee chair, or you're the assistant director, for marketing or stuff like that, and then ultimately to where's at the executive level, leadership. That is probably the best way to the aspirational way to kind of look at this, and how do you get into that next to last goal. The final goal being, what do you do for something larger than the organization? But in the case, so I see, and I've seen this as I'm a member of one professional society, actually, but one where I'm looking at them going through the same thing for the last 4 years. The leadership has subbed through, so it's like it's Bill, it's Kelly, it's it's Suzanne, it's who the other person is. And I told them 3 years ago, I said, you are going to be struggling because half of you are at least having to quit because you'll be burned out. So the question is, that become is that a threat or is that an opportunity? Do we let them go? Yeah, there's disruption associated with that. There surely is. Maybe the biggest challenge is you say, we would like to rotate half of our board 6 months from now. Who of you, which of you are willing to give up your role and train somebody else? And then what goes hand in hand with is the somebody's question of, and I'll ask this to you, Cindy, if you don't mind sharing, how do you solicit, how do you ask for folks who can consider a board role or board position?
On this particular board, I have not been there for that to happen very recently, but I know in the past what we've done is personal conversations. Of course, there's always that, thing that goes out in the newsletter that nobody responds to,
Right.
Why bother?
Right.
But it definitely has to be personal discussions. The interesting part is probably of this organization, it's a branch of a national organization. And there's about 80 people in it. And I am betting that 40 of them have served in very significant leadership roles. And of course, like many volunteer organizations and membership organizations, members are aging and they're kind of done. So what we've been trying to do is to bring newer members into small volunteer positions, which was a whole lot easier when you did something in person, because you could have
Right.
somebody that was greeter and somebody, and when everybody's on Zoom, it's a little bit more difficult to find those smaller tasks that need to be done as a volunteer. But to get them started in that way, and then move them up into a board position.
Well, so one thing, that come to mind that I've, I won't lie and say that I've actually done it, but I've heard of it and, passed the suggestion to others. Then just a little bit of background. So PDCHR, we're staying virtual for, at least another year. I personally can't get there and do that. I'm a transplant recipient. So, system compromise, blah, 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 blah. As much as I miss the best, this just happened for me. Vaccines and boosters aside. So, that said, what we've been looking at how other people's are doing, and I'm thinking about our symposium, our biggest gathering, there is those traditional volunteer in-person tasks. How many of them can be successfully translated into virtual space? And Grant, we're really answering the question boards up in terms of filling that pipeline. Growing more volunteers, give meaningful tasks. So when you think about the greeter, so when you meet face, Sydney, tell me what your greeter's supposed to do. No, by the way, I am ignoring the time up thing. We're just going here and we're just going to go. It's like too
Yeah,
hard.
I can see that clearly. You could have a greeter on Zoom. I mean, there can be somebody that gets on early and as people come in, or they are the person that lets people in to the Zoom.
Right.
So some of them certainly can be translated, and we should do a much better job of that. So that's one really great idea.
So,
I think,
what,
go
so,
ahead.
so I could ask, so if you don't mind, I drill down a little bit more into that. So, how about this? This is something I've heard about. So that greeter role, it's not so much I will press the admit button or the admit button, Zoom, but do you have new folks, first timers and stuff like that? Say, hey, show up 15 minutes early. Show up at 11:05. We're going to fly you into the newbies room, and Marie, our volunteer and our official greeter is going to welcome you and talk to you a little bit more about the organization that we're so happy that you joined. Lay down, this is how our meeting works and stuff like that. And just, if you've got someone who's got the personality to, hold that conversation, you make people feel at ease and say, don't be worried that this is your first time here. We'd love to have you speak up. There's no bad ideas, bad questions or something like that. And if you're not comfortable with that, I'll be in your corner. You text me or put something in the chat room, and I'll keep you anonymous. I'll say, hey, here's a question from the crowd. Why was eating suck so hard, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's a really good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. We, for all of our new members, we have an existing member that's their partner, and having the partners come into that meeting as well. That little 15-minute ahead of schedule might make them feel more comfortable as well, because then they know somebody.
Right. So I mean, healthy for your member, but also healthy for assigning a making a volunteer tasking or volunteer role non-trivial. It's like, no kidding, you're going to do, here's your job description, here's what success looks like, that they can work to, they can sink teeth into too.
Yeah.
It may mean going back, looking at all your volunteer roles and say, hey, sufficiently well, do we know what the desirable results are for the individual, for the organization? You've heard me say that before today. And that good definition, how do we do that online? We Zoom and all the other online platforms have got a well of tools that most of us, included, barely scratched the surface. So are you willing to make that investment time to figure that out, or to after you volunteer to just say, what would you like to do this? How would this work for you? This is what we think in terms of organizational goals. What do you think? Did those sense to you? What did we miss? What did we state? Right. What tools, what training, what can offer you so that you can take ownership of this? So granted, it doesn't say, crap, I don't know who's going to be treasurer tomorrow problem, but it might help address, I know who's going to be treasurer next year.
Yeah.
Well,
Tomorrow's okay. It's next year that I have to worry about.
Right.
Well, one thing I wanted to add too is, can we, since the culture is changing anyway, can we change the culture of the organization by saying, I'm president now, and the goal is that I should be seeking my replacement or training my replacement, not necessarily a kind of like formal training, but just, looking out, seeing who has good ideas, whatever the role is, to be looking for a replacement, instead of the committee I'm on acts like if they're not in that position, they're dying or something like that. And as a matter of fact, I'm having difficulty trying to get the board. The bylaws say that the board members have an eternal term, so they kind of die out of the position. And I'm just like, this doesn't work, because you never get
Abby,
any.
you need to change those bylaws,
Oh my
honey.
gosh, yes.
Trust me, I have tried, but what happens is I'm the only new person in the group. And so everything goes to a vote, and then of course they outvote me. And I'm just like, well, how do you expect this to work if everything new that's suggested goes to the vote of the same old people? So we're working. I've been told you have to kind of gently go around, but it's not working for me. So, but
Wow, yeah. I think if you don't get those bylaws changed,
right.
Talk to people individually, give them
I have.
practice. Tell them you love them and you want to give them a break. I don't know. Somehow you got to get that changed.
I've done that. And it's funny because when I talk to them individually, they're all in agreement. And then when they come to the meeting, it's like, I'm the bad guy. I'm trying to ruin the whole committee. We can't wait till you're gone. And it's like, well, too bad I'm still here. So,
Wow, that's tough.
It is. It is.
I think that's for Mark. Mark, what do you think?
So I no, I got to tell you,
you're on the spot, huh?
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't bother me a little bit. So I just dropped into the chat box, Jory, the 2 R's, nonprofit leadership.
Mhm.
She's the former executive director of GLAD, GLADD, gay, lesbian, et cetera, advocacy thing. Yeah. And she runs a consulting service now on it's really focused on nonprofit, but they talk a lot about boards,
Right.
not necessarily the same as a membership organization board, because their work as opposed to what nonprofit, traditional nonprofit boards, which is a different type. We'll just leave it at that.
Right.
But no, there's all conversation. And then she got a ton of free material there, as well as their Facebook site. So that's there are. I know she's got some guidance and thoughts about bylaw changing. And it's all under the
right.
If you don't have term limit, your life is going to continue to suck for eternity. Thing. It's like one of my first questions when working with traditional non-for-profits, when it comes to board development, is like, what do your bylaws say about terms? Oh my God. And then if there sounds good, it's like, do you follow? Like, oh my God, no, you don't. So yeah, it's kind of that rebel thing. But the reason I suggest research is taking a look at Joan's stuff is I think she might have some decent points to try make with your board of directors, or about your bylaws. The trouble is bylaws are rarely in violation of state law, is those things are governed, so you won't go there for this. So it's always a matter of cajoling and slaying to make that happen. The other question might be your bylaws. Is it only the board that can initiate or approve changes to laws, or is there a provision for the membership to do that?
Only the board, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it tough.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. Are all of the elderly and do any of them scare easily? No, you didn't hear me say that.
Well, that's the problem. The president is the only position that changes every 2 years or 4 years. And what I realized in taking the position was that, well, I'm the only one that changes. So everybody else has just been there, and they are all older. As a matter of fact, some of them are incapacitated to be able to do the job because they're older and can't get around as well, because they're older and don't have internet access. And of course, the bylaws say if you miss 3 meetings, you're no longer a member of the board. But because they've been there so long and everybody doesn't want to offend them or hurt their feelings, and I'm the terrible one who says, you know, you got bylaws that say you're out if you don't do this, but you don't want to follow that. But you want to follow the part that says we are here forever. You know, it's like we buy into one part, but we don't buy into the other. And I'm not, you know, trying to get rid of everybody. But again, if you can't serve your function, I did actually hear Joan Gary. She did a free webinar online. So I did hear some of her suggestions. Of course, there was a price following that I couldn't afford at the time, but I'll try to look at some more things of hers. But I understand what you mean. She did have some good suggestions of what to do.
So you raise an interesting point there. So are you in the president's role? Is that what you
Yes.
said?
Mhm. Yes.
So if the bylaws miss 3 meetings, you're out. I didn't hear you say anything that says that was subject to any vote. Yeah, is that in the bylaws, or is that just a simple,
You know,
inspirational statement? Because it might not be popular, but if the board, particularly lack of participation, is dental to you serving your constituency, oh, I know that truly sucks. We'll miss you, and we'll think some of us will think fondly of you. But I'm not going to say, worry about a whole heck of a lot.
right.
It's maybe time to rip off the proverbial band-aid.
That's an idea.
Yeah. So no, that be something, and it might, you may have the opportunity to apply it judiciously. It's like, holy moly, Addie's serious about this. She just used 2 board members. This actually is important enough for me to engage or have this conversation.
Addie, be bold.
Yeah.
Be bold.
Addie, are you with a membership association or say a traditional nonprofit serving others?
It's a civic league. So
Right.
mm.
Do you know? Any chance Becky Glass?
Yes.
Over.
I talked with her.
All right, perfect. So yeah, if you want some pointers on being bold.
Oh yeah. We've had conversation, and at first I was kind of intimidated, but this is, starting my 2nd year, and it's like I'm tired of being bothered with the nonsense. So
yeah.
We are definitely going to do some changing. So
right. and your term definitively ends.
Well, I found out last night. I started in September, and I guess they held the voting late. So I was thinking it would end in August, but now they're talking about it ending in April. So I was like, very happy about that.
So you saying you got like 3.5 months left?
But you see, the point is, like we've been talking with Cindy, there is no one else to be president. There, as a matter of fact, right now, our treasurer left. So we have no treasurer, and we've been a year and like a little over a year with no recording secretary. And it's just like, so, if I step down, we only have a vice president. And so maybe.
Addie, you need to take care of those board members and revamp this place.
The whole thing before.
Yes.
Yes.
And you have the opportunity to do it now, and just think how good you're going to feel about yourself.
That's true.
I think you ought to decide if you want to sit down or if you want to make it a new place.
I've done some of making it a new place, and a lot of what I've suggested even though it's been a fight, has been accomplished. It's just we got to get those bylaws changed. So
Yes, you do.
definitely.
Right.
So
Or taking advantage, like we were on before, you might have the opportunity, judo move to, to change the composition of the board.
right.
If you're done, at the end of April, completely Teflon now.
That's true.
So there's a great freedom
I
in
guess,
that.
yeah, it depends on whether how much you believe in the organization. If you believe in the organization,
Mm.
I would go for it. If you don't, if it's just kind of there, then April's not that far away.
That's true. That is true. Mhm.
Right, that's funny. Yeah. So I don't know if you ever have talked to Jim Herbst. I take it you're in Norfolk.
Yes.
Yeah. So you know Jim?
Yes, I know Jim.
Yeah. So and again, I don't know if he's got any tricks up his sleeve, or knowing his engagement just in Norfolk,
Right.
stuff like that. Yeah, I would. I'm kind of with Cindy. And I recommend pressing the "Be Bold" button, because it doesn't sound like from a
What do you
from a
got to
little bit of-
lose? You got nothing to lose.
That's
Right.
true. That is
You got
true.
everything to gain. It's
Uh-huh.
awesome.
Yeah.
right.
It sounds like great fun.
right. And even if you
Yes.
get one little thing improved,
Right.
that's like an infinite return on investment, because there's a risk.
Well,
So no cost.
but at least they've heard and see that there is a difference, because the last time someone tried to bring a difference, they kind of ran her out of the place, and she hasn't been back since. And so
Well, maybe you can bring her back.
yeah, that would be good.
Move out some of those board members and bring her back and start anew.
Yep.
I think it's exciting, Addie.
I know
It
it
is,
sounds like
Cindy.
one.
It is.
3.5 months of fully sanctioned hell raising interview. That's awesome.
Yeah, that does sound good.
Love it.
Boy.
Great. So we're at about 120. We've actually hit all the topics
Okay.
that mostly Cindy, but
Well,
a couple other that nobody voted on. Anything else? Though I'm perfectly happy to keep chatting for a little bit if you want. Just thoughts, or or gift of time. I can go any way on that.
My feeling is I want to thank you two for re-energizing me, particularly as I'm having this meeting on succession planning, which is great. Our organization changes leadership on July 1st, so we have a bit of time. And so I feel like we're getting started early enough, but I really appreciate the conversation and appreciate, the laughter and the positive statements. And I want to thank you both.
and I want to thank you both too. And one thing I would just like to add to all that we've talked about is, it seems like to me in this day and time, we have to clearly define the roles of the volunteer, in the sense of it's going to take X amount of time for this job, because I think people are looking very much to say, I don't want to do another Zoom, or I don't want to be involved in this because I've got so much going on. But when we define the role and say that, can you spare 2 hours a month to do this, or whatever, the time frame is, I think that might help to get people to say, well, I can do that. And then there'll be some kind of fun, not such a heavy environment. Sometimes we get in the meeting and we're discussing this, that, and the other, and not bring some lightness to it, or a reason why you should come back, because again, people are stressed. And so we need to be able to kind of lift them a little bit with our meetings. So that's all I wanted to add, but thank you both again.
Good luck, Addie.
Thank you.
Yeah, just if I just tag a little bit on that, Addie, because is so yeah, absolute underscore 100% thumbs up that you need a good definition of what that volunteer role is. I know back when I was in a different leadership role at a different local professional society, we had a successful call for volunteers. I said, I think I need 3 to help me with marketing. And then 3 people raised their hands, had no expletive deleted clue what I wanted to do. And of course, after a month or so, it completely evaporated. So it was, it was ugly lesson learned there. But the thing that goes along with that is, yes, descriptions, if you will, are good. They imply a recurring role. It's like, all right, so we need you. And I think, Addie, what you said there as an example, is like, we need you for 2 hours a month, something. I would also recommend having in your back pocket, portions of that task, maybe easy little one-offs.
Right.
If somebody I just came more time, I've got commitments through the end of the year. No, that's not what I'm talking about whatsoever. What I was really looking for is somebody who could just take on this one thing, just go and grab this spreadsheet, make these calls just for next month's meeting. That's it. It's one on I promise, and so you might a bite on that. And then afterwards, day after, say that was fantastic. That really helped. You got people there. What was your secret? Share with the next person asked for that. And those they might share some secrets. They might suggest somebody. They might say something that was actually fun. Do it again. So again, another little judo move there about thinking about breaking it down into if someone can only give 2 hours a year. We love you for that. Here it is, just as long as it doesn't take you 10 hours just to manage the effort.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
all right, folks, well,
that's good.
I'm going to recommend we declare victory.
Yeah.
I will ask you just because there's only 2 here who engaged, had the opportunity to engage today. I usually use our recordings, and I rarely ask permission. I put them up on youtube.pdchr.org. Are you both okay with sharing?
Sure.
Good. All right. Perfect. All right. So I appreciate that. I threw in the chat room a link to our next one. So a month from now on February 9th, or a month from now, Gary Paul, who owns Gary DePaul Leadership, a friend of mine, is going to talk about getting despair to delight volunteer leadership development. So, in contrast to our conversation here, just sharing goals and news and stuff like that. Gary's going to offer a little more of an instructional focused approach to a lot of the same questions you hear. So I hope that you guys can come back next month and recommend to a friend that they come on to, kind of share the wealth. Addie, I know you won't have any friends on your board. That's okay. Get Jackie to show up and some friends.
All right.
All right, perfect.
Thank you. It was great to meet you both.
Yes, same here. And wish you
Bye-bye.
well, Cindy.
Y'all have a great day.